So the Pittsburgh Steelers, they just sounded off on a key veteran, and this is kind of nice because we're getting a way more crystal clear view of his future with the organization, and it's going to be nice to not talk about quarterback for once. So let's take a deep breath. And it's league meeting time. And there's been a lot of chatter about two particular players that aren't quarterbacks. The players I'm talking about are George Pickens and also newly signed Darius Slay. And George Pickens, it's been talked about a lot that he's a trade candidate, and there's also a narrative that he matches the skill set of newly signed DK Metcalf a little too closely. And the other one in Slay, it just really signals a win now mentality that you've got to like. So first, let's go to the GP conversation. And I think it's interesting what the Steelers brass had to say today. And I don't think he's going anywhere. And also, I think the Steelers would be super foolish to do so. And he's been floated as a trade chip. We know that. But head coach Mike Tomlin, he gave us some really good clarification today and also kind of signaling that the organization is going to modernize a bit. And there's a little bit of a keeping up with the Joneses as far as the wide receiver position. So let me just directly quote Coach Tomlin. I don't know that it affects him in any way. Directly, certainly, the strength of the pack, that's the pack. And when you have eligibles that are schematic problems for those that defend you, it creates more opportunity for all involved. And I think that's probably the only lens through which I've looked at this point. So he's talking about that these two players don't negate each other. It causes a schematic problem for the defense, and it's going to actually lead to more opportunity for both of them. So there's plenty of mouths to feed here. That's my narrative, but let's look at a little more of what Mike Tomlin had to say. I know as a guy who grew up on the defensive side of the ball, when you've got multiple people schematically that you've got to work to minimize, it really challenges you in terms of some of the things that you do. We see some similar challenges within our division. Sorry about that. For example, and so we're excited about putting together a group that has that type of collective presence. So what's he really saying here? I think he's saying that the Steelers are going to modernize at the wide receiver position, that he doesn't have a problem paying two wide receivers considerable money because he's seeing what Cincinnati's doing. And that's going to kind of signal that perhaps the Steelers should do the same to keep up offensively. That's just a thought. But now we've got Pickens heading into the final year of his rookie contract and no word on extension talks so far. Tons of speculation, but I think this really helps to clarify this a little bit. And also there's a lot of concern about spending all this money on one position. I mean, Metcalf, he just got 5 years and $132 million in a deal that pales next to Jamar Chase. I'm just going to say that. But if you look at what the Bengals just did of Jamar Chase and Higgins, keeping up with this arms race, paying these two guys, it wouldn't even come close to the new standard that's been set in the division. And it's also done without a huge quarterback contract to commit to as well, because word is, even if, I wanted to go a video without saying his name, but here we go. Even if Aaron Rodgers is signed, I said it, it's only going to be for 1 year, and it's not going to hamstring the budget in the future. No reason not to pay these two guys. And Tomlin also, he makes me laugh sometimes in the things that he says. It sounds like a sarcastic answer to this repetitive question. I think he thinks that the question is stupid about these two players being redundant. I think it's kind of a dumb question too, but here's what he had to say. I don't necessarily view them as similar, to be quite honest with you. They're both downfield capable, but they're different people. I mean, DK Metcalf, he's a big man. GP, George Pickens, is tall. There's a difference. I hope that's sarcastic. I mean, why is it a bad thing to have two wideouts that can stretch the field? I agree with Tomlin. It's a silly thought that these guys can't coexist. To me, they're the perfect X and Y combo. And this is further compiled today by what we heard from Omar Khan. No. You need more than one receiver in this league, and we're fortunate to have George and Calvin Austin III. Excited about Roman Wilson as well. These players are going to do some good things for us. And then I'm really looking for, personally, for specifically Roman Wilson, I think he's going to become an elite slot receiver. People forget how he profiled last year coming out of the University of Michigan, a national champion, great hands, a nice end zone threat. And I haven't even introduced this channel. I'm midway through the video. This is Sports Talk Steelers. Thank you so much for growing this channel with me. I'm going to continue to be here on the daily with an impartial view, kind of an outsider's view of Pittsburgh Steelers football. And you guys, like and subscribe if this is great for you. So now, we're looking at GP and DK now on this offense. I really like what they've put together. Just a lethal duo here. I don't think there should be any fear extending Pickens, but just one caveat. I'm thinking maybe with his attitude, make it as incentive-laden as possible. Put in as many incentives possible that he will still sign, because talent-wise, the guy is just a stud. Why part ways with him and coach this guy instead? Let's get this together with the coaching staff. You're looking at 2,841 yards in 3 seasons, add in 12 touchdowns as well. You're not going to draft a better wide receiver than GP in this draft. So if you're desperate for picks, trade someone else to generate draft picks. Keep GP on this team. And maybe it might be a bit of a good thing to bring in, I'm going to say his name again, to bring in Aaron Rodgers, for the simple fact that if a wide receiver chirps or if he gets out of line with Aaron Rodgers in the huddle, he simply isn't going to get the ball. And that in itself is some incentive to shape up. And Rodgers is a lot of things. But being a pushover, that is not one of them. He demands discipline. He demands dedication to a team-first mentality once he's in the huddle. I mean, I'm not an Aaron Rodgers fan, but I'll at least recognize that about him. And perhaps that's a good part of the prospect of him joining this team. And I think a signal's been given to Metcalf that he's the number one with this deal. But the thought of these two guys together for multiple years, it's a really good thought. And my opinion is find the money, get it done, extend Pickens, even if it requires proving that he can fly straight on the last year of his deal. Let him prove it, let him earn it. And if he does, pay the guy. And looking at this combo, it just looks really, really enticing to me. I think it's a good pair. And he's also coming off a season where he was the lone top receiver. But his field stretching skill set, that should match with DK Metcalf and Arthur Smith's scheme. And no word yet on Rodgers. Word is he was spotted heading out to a vacation in Mexico. That's great. I don't know, man. I'm tired of talking about him for now. So let's kind of talk about Slay for a little bit. I think in Slay, the Steelers are showing a commitment to shoring up the secondary, but I think it also shows that the Steelers believe that they can win this year. And Tomlin has yet to clarify whether Slay is going to be a starter or not. I think he's going to be. It's highly probable. And he's going to be a really nice pairing right next to third-year cornerback Joey Porter Jr. I can't believe he's in the 3rd year with you guys already. It's also going to be an instant upgrade over Dante Jackson. He kind of faltered in the back stretch, but also had some back injury problems. So we're kind of also looking at a strong possibility that you guys might draft a young cornerback for the future to deploy after Slay is gone. But say what you will about Slay, he's a little long in the tooth, but he's got plenty left in the tank, and he's just a guy who was instrumental in developing the young talent that Philly had in their secondary. Still got gas in the tank once again. Just would be an incredible addition, even just due to his mentorship mentality. I like the guy a lot. And we're also looking at Pittsburgh possibly in a recent mock draft. I think I saw them drafting Kentucky cornerback Maxwell Harrison in the 1st round. I don't know if it's necessary to do the 1st round, but this is another guy to hear from the staff. This is to hear from Tomlin about Darius Slay. There's a guy that we've competed with against a lot over the years. I've just got so much respect for his talents, his resume, his approach to business, his football intellect. He's a really good veteran player. So we're looking at still some pretty big holes, right? At quarterback and running back. I think running back is an excellent position to address with this 21st overall pick. I would also love to see if there's a player like Kenneth Grant for you guys at 21 overall. I think that would be a fantastic get. It's going to be really interesting to see what players are available at 21 overall. And it's super important to really strike well with that pick, because you guys lost your second, well, didn't lose it, but you guys gave your second rounder in that DK Metcalf trade. So that first round pick, it makes it even more important to do it well. And you've got the Aaron Rodgers situation. We'll talk about that later, see how it plays out. You guys, let me know what you think in the comments. Do you love the prospect of extending George Pickens and making him a permanent part of this team? I think you guys should, but there's also a thing that he's kind of a knucklehead. I've had knuckleheads on my team as a Bears fan before, and it's kind of like a thing when that guy comes into your town. He's a knucklehead, but he's our idiot, right? We love him, and I think that's what the Steeler fan base feels about George Pickens. And make him prove it, do whatever you have, but I think he should be signed for the long term. You guys, appreciate you, and we'll talk tomorrow.